Swear whenever you're around her. That's all you gotta do.
He's like,
Okay,
oh.
kiddos.
Right to bed.
Adulting.
Every year, I've gotten you for Christmas lots of little things.
You got me some butterflies going, Dad.
It's like they're back in school.
Yeah.
Lots of little things. But this year I decided to do a little bit differently.
Okay.
Because as we're getting older and as we're adulting, you know, it occurs to me that, you know, there's some things I wish I knew when I was your age. And I wish there were things I got started on when I was your age. So,
He got us a piggy bank.
with that, I think about when I was your age, I wanted security. You know, I wanted security.
Security.
You know, as I got older, it's about taking care of my family, you know, but in general in life, it's about security. It's about having enough money put aside. It's about, you know, having an emergency fund. Because what happens is when you run out of money and you run out of options, you know, sometimes you have to make decisions you don't want to make. So it's always good to have something put aside, some sort of security. And you guys have seen what I've been able to do, you know, over the years with kind of what I've put aside. So with that, there are a couple of ways to do that. One is you can buy a house. And you can't really buy a house right now, but that's something you should strive for a couple of reasons. One, buy versus rent. Today, you could probably rent a house, a nice house, for about $2,000 a month, or you can buy a house for about $2,500 a month. Now, you could also get a cheap place like we were living in for, I think it's $1,500 a month. But so it costs a little bit more to own than it does to rent, right? But then you look at it, you get a tax break when you buy a house for your interest and for your taxes, which about make the payments equal. So you have a house, which is about maybe a little bit more than owning a house, than renting an apartment. But 10 years from now, rent on that same apartment is going to be about $4,000 a month, but your payments stay the same, about $2,500 a month. Plus, on top of that, that house that you paid $300,000 for is now worth about $600,000. So that's why you buy a house instead of renting a house.
Right.
So that's what you want to be thinking of.
So we're gonna buy a house for Christmas.
So I'm buying you all houses. But that's what your goal is. And to get a house, what do you need?
Money.
You gotta have money put aside,
Down
but you also
payment.
have to have perfect credit. And we'll talk about that at another time, but your credit makes a difference on whether or not you get the loan and what your payments are. So with that, thinking through here, another way to make money is investments. And I've been fortunate over the years to make money in the stock market. I've made money, I've lost money. Back in 2000, when Steve Jobs came back to Apple and came out with this new Mac, I knew that Apple, there are too many people that love Apple. They were about ready to go bankrupt. But I bought a little bit of stock and they just exploded. And over the years, when I had trouble, I was able to live on that stock. Then in about 2010, a friend of mine in Oklahoma City bought a Tesla. And I went up there and I remember it was a little 2-seater Tesla and he put me in it and I'm like, this is electric? He said, Bob, take your right foot and put it to the ground as hard as you can. I'm like, that's it. I mean, so I bought 100 shares of Tesla stock at $35 a share, which later became worth thousands of dollars a share. But I was able to live on that as I was making these companies, you know, working that I'm working on now.
Right.
So investments. So let's talk about interest for a second. Do you guys know about interest? Compound interest? What do you know about it?
Isn't there two different types? One goes up the same amount each year. One goes up like a little bit more and more each year.
So let's say, for example, that if you were to loan me $100 at 10% interest, and at the end of the year, I owe you what? $110. At the end, if I didn't pay it to you, and it was still 10% a year, at the end of 2 years, I have $110 plus 10% interest on that. So what do I owe you? $121. At the end of 3 years, I owe you $131. You can see how it starts to go up, but it starts to accelerate. 10 years, I owe you $359 from that original 100.
Jeez.
That's what interest does.
Screws ya.
It accumulates.
Or it works for you.
Ah.
Or yeah.
Both of those. On credit cards, it screws you.
Yeah.
So thinking about interest, there's banks. Banks pay 1%, 2%. They don't pay a lot of interest, but they're safe. You're not going to lose your money. So if I have $100 in the bank and I get 1% interest at the end of the month or at the end of the year, I have $101. But there's also, it's very safe, it's also the stock market. So if you try and bet on individual stocks, you're gambling.
Yeah.
If you're day trading, you're gambling. And we all hear of people that day trade to make money, whether it's your friend or whether it's my sister. You can make money day trading when the stock market's going up, because everybody's making money, it's going up. But when it's going down is when everyone's losing money. And you can't make money, you will never make money day trading, it's gambling. How you make money is buying good stocks and holding on to them, or you buy the market. So the market is like, there's the S&P 500, which are the 500 biggest companies. There's the Dow Jones, which I think there's 50 companies. There is the NASDAQ, which is technology companies. And there are funds you can buy that buy the average of all of those, for example. And if you were to buy those, on average, you can make 10% a year, which is 9.5–10% a year, which is pretty good interest. Doesn't sound like much, but it's pretty good. So if you put $500 in something today that gives you 9% interest, next year you're going to make $45 in interest, right? Which gives you $545 in the bank. Next year's end, you get interest on the $545, right? Which gives you interest of $594. So in 10 years, that $500 has become $1,100 without ever doing anything else to it. If you set it there. In 20 years, it's become $2,800. In 30 years, $15,000.
Wow.
In 40 years, when you're my age, $37,000.
Is this
From 500.
Is this how you're gonna show us how to make $1 million?
Yeah. He's getting there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, if you put $300 in something today that averages 9% return, the next year's interest is $45. Now you have $545 in the bank. Plus, if you put $50 a week aside, and for your first year, I'm going to match it. So if you put $100.
You said a year?
What's that?
You said a year?
Yeah, so for the first year, I'm going to match it. You put $50 a week aside. Oh, let me back up. My Christmas present to you is I'm giving the 3 of you Ameritrade accounts, stock accounts with $500 each in them to start with.
Holy shit.
And then I am going to encourage you to invest in there. So for now, for the next year, for every dollar you put in up to $50 a week, I'm going to match it.
So you can put money in this thing?
Going double.
Yeah,
I can?
yeah,
From my bank account?
yeah.
Interesting.
So
that's where I would put $50 a week?
Yeah.
away?
If you put
Cool.
$50 a week in, I'm going to match it for a total of $100 a week.
Seriously?
Yes. In 10 years. If all we do is just 1 year. That's all we do is 1 year. In 10 years, you'll have that much. In 20 years, you'll have that much. If you just put $50 a week away, because I'm going to match it for the next year. And $30, you're going to have almost $70,000, in 30 years.
Will you have access to these accounts? Okay, so you can just go ahead and put money in there?
Yeah. So
That's
what you'll do
if
is
we
you
put
Venmo me
$50.
$20, then I'll put $40 in your bank. You Venmo me $50, I'll put $100
Oh,
in
so
your
I
bank.
can't just.
Oh, you can too, yeah. You can too. In 40 years, 1 year of investing $50 a week is going to have $165,000. So let's say, which
How many
I
times
really
can
want
you
you
do
is to
that?
keep investing.
Yeah.
So let's say, put $500 in, next year's interest, but plus you put $100 a week in for the next 5 years. Now $100 a week. First of all, the first year I'm going to help you. So you're gonna put in 50, I'm gonna put in 50. $100 a week is nothing.
Yeah, it
When
really
you
is.
pay yourself first, this has got to be a must. If you don't make it a must, it's not going to happen. So if you put $100 a week away, again, I'm going to help the first year. In 10 years, you have $49,000. And this is just 5 years of investing.
So if I put $100 in a week, you'd put 200?
No, I'm going to do
Is it tiger?
So in 10 years, you'll have 49,000. In 20, you'll have 116. In 30, 274. In 40 years, when you're my age, you'll have $650,000 if just for the next 5 years.
Wow.
You put away $100 a week. And $100 a week is easy to do. It may be hard right now, harder right now, but as you get older and as you're making more money, that $100 is less. And I would
I
encourage you
know
to
for
put
a
more
fact
in.
all of us could do $50 a week.
Yeah,
I know we could.
yeah. So now, let's say you have $500 in the first year, now you have $545 in it, and let's say we put $100 a week in for the next 10 years. Till you're 30, and then you stop. Well, in 10 years, you'll have $80,000, 20, $189, 30, $449, and 40, $1 million.
That's for
And
100.
that's in for $100 a week for 10 years.
That's
Okay,
so.
but that's gonna be when I'm 60.
When you're my age, you have $1 million in the bank.
I remember you telling us how you were gonna show us how to make $1 million.
When you're 50, you'll have half of that. So let's keep going. Let's say that instead of you doing it for 10 years, you have all that money and you do it for 40 years. Well, in 10 years, you still have 80,000. In 20 years, 268. In 30 years, 715. In 40 years, $1,000,007. And take it 10 years from now when you're 70, you'll have $4 million.
Holy
Putting
shit.
$100 a week away. And again, as you get older, you put more in. Now, let's say the easy thing for people to say is, well, I don't have the money now, so I'm going to put it away later. Right? I'll start in 10 years. Well, let me show you what happens if you start in 10 years. Let's say you wait 10 years and then you start putting in $100 a week. In 10 years, you'll have $1,184. 20 years, you'll have $81,000. 30 years, you'll have $272. In 40 years, you'll have $772. In 50 years, you'll have $1,000,007. Still pretty good numbers. But what does the difference make by starting 10 years earlier?
$3 million.
Starting 10 years earlier, in year 10, instead of having $1,184, you'll have $80,000. Year 20, instead of having $81,000, you'll have $268.
Damn.
In 30 years, instead of having $272, you'll have $715. In 40 years, instead of having $724, you'll have $1,000,007.
Plus
And in 50 years, if you wait that long, instead of having $1,000,007, you'd have $4,000,001 for a difference of $2.5 million.
Oh, wait.
That's why starting early, because that interest compounding on itself makes all the difference. And I didn't know this when I was your age. And this takes discipline because it's so easy to say, oh, I'm not going to do it this week. You're not going to do it this week, you're not going to do it next week.
Right.
You make it fucking happen. $100 a week, $50 a week your first year, and I'm going to match it, you're a fucking fool
Yeah.
if you don't do that.
Yeah.
Because even if it just sits there, you saw how much money you have if you don't touch it.
So the more money you put in, the more money you're gonna get out, or what?
By significantly, a multiple.
And so this, I can just. This
Yeah.
is
And I've got a spreadsheet where I can
Spreadsheet.
show you.
So you think it'd be bigger that? So obviously it would be like if you decided to put more than for the first year we decided to put more than 50.
So they just
It's
pay you to have
gonna
money
make
in
an
there?
even bigger difference.
Like
down
if
the
I
road.
decided to do 100, just start out 100 for the first year.
Now
and
I'll
you
put in
do
100,
50.
and you'll have 150 in there.
How do you just go about this?
What's
How
that?
do you go about starting a?
I've already set up the accounts, and I can help you guys to set up accounts too if
Oh,
you want
for-
to on Ameritrade.
Oh, I was like, you don't travel?
And you just set up with your bank, and you just wire the money. You just set up to
So
automatically
they-
send the money over.
They just
Like
pay
if
you to put money
stay
in
with
there?
me, we
Yeah.
don't have
What's that?
$1
They pay you to have money in there?
Let's do it. We'll have
No, the money sits there, so it's going up in value. So what you so now let me tell you what happens. The stock market has averaged over a 10% increase for the last, call it 40 years. But there's some years when it goes down. This year it's gone down. So I think now is a good time to go in because it'll go up, but you can never time it. You can never say, I'm gonna wait for it to go down. Because then it just keeps going up, 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 up. Well, it can't keep going up. So you can just invest the money in, it may go down, that's okay. You know, I've done well, I told you I did well with Apple, I did well with Tesla, but then I put a bunch of money in a Chinese electric car company,
That little
lost
one.
a ton of money.
You were really on that
Yes.
one?
Yes.
Really?
I
The
wasn't
little,
paying attention to it, I overextended myself and I lost a ton of money.
the little electric car?
You know, it was a Chinese electric car.
I remember it because we used to go on walks and talk about it.
Yeah. So I will
Didn't
help
Uncle
you
Michael
guys.
tell you about that one? Or
What's that?
Wasn't it Uncle Mike or somebody
Yeah.
who told you about that one?
Yeah, yeah.
Did you lose money too?
Yeah, but I stayed in too long. I really screwed up. I screwed up on it. But I made a lot of money. And so the point is you can make money, you can lose money. But when you buy the average, when you buy the market, when you buy what's called the spider fund, which buys each of the shares that are in that S&P 500, on average it'll go up about 10% a year. So you'll make this money. But the hard part is, you know, again, $50 a week that first year, it's easy to say just skip a week.
Like going
You gotta pay yourself first. On anything you do, any job you have to pay yourself first. And that's this, you gotta pay that for the future. Because it's not just this, if you can get in the habit of being a saver, it's gonna help you with everything. It's gonna help you with everything. And it's like going to the gym. You gotta make it a must. You gotta say, you know what? I've gotta come up with $50 this week, because if I didn't, I should have come up with this number. But if I didn't, here's how much it's gonna cost me. And that number would be thousands of dollars. Because you didn't come up with the $50 this week.
Right.
Really?
Get me excited
So,
to be a millionaire.
Watch me.
any questions?
Yeah.
Again, this is about kind of starting, and so we'll put away money now. I'll match what you guys put in. We'll let it grow. When we go, we'll go to dinner.
So you're just gonna
once a
give
week.
us 50 for whatever we
I already put 500 in. So
Uh-huh.
you each have an account, your own account that I'm on also, but where it's called an equal account.
So I can just send you money?
But you're saying for the first year you'll put 50 in. For
Is there
whatever we put in?
No, you put in 50, whatever you put in
You're
up to
gonna
50,
match.
I'll match. Yeah. If
Is
you
it-
want to put in more than that, which I would encourage you to,
Like I'm saying, if I wanted to do 100 a week.
yeah, then I'll do it 50. I'll do 50 a week.
So it's just like a.
And I've got a spreadsheet where I can show you what that means at the end. It'll
If
say,
I'm thinking like I could probably do 100 a week for the first year.
mhm,
If you're gonna match it,
yeah.
I should try and put more.
You should. I'm going to match 50. So
Well, that's what
but
I'm
you should
saying.
put even more in.
But
The
that's
more
what I'm
you can
saying.
put in, the more you
For the
can put in
first year,
early.
if you're gonna give me $50 a week, yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah.
try and like put as much as I can.
Yep. And you should put even as much as you can, because you get in that habit, it's going to make such a difference down. You wait 10 years and you've just lost all this opportunity, all this money.
I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting for this day.
I kept telling you about it.
He kept
Seriously.
saying, "I'm gonna show you how to make $1 million.
That's how you do it.
I'm gonna show
But
you
it
how to
takes
make $1 million."
discipline. It takes discipline. It takes discipline. But once you start doing it, like my working out, once you start doing it, it becomes your habit. I've got to pay myself first. I got to pay myself first.
That's what I'm
gotta pay
saying. I
myself
can start
first.
going to the gym and being consistent at the gym, so I can have some consistency.
Right. Get into a schedule.
Any questions on anything? So what I'd like to do is I'd like to resume us going back to our dinners, and we'll talk about stocks. And we can talk, if you guys want to invest in stuff, let's talk about what the investments
I would love
are.
to. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it is fun because you can sit there and invest. You look at what kind of the companies that are out there, you know, what companies you like, and I'll tell you what my thoughts are, because you can lose a lot of money on a company.
You know who's also
Rock
really
does
good?
stocks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you know who's also a really good person to talk to?
Mm.
My brother.
Oh
He's
yeah.
so smart when it comes to stocks and all that stuff. Like in cryptocurrency and
Yeah,
all
in crypto,
that.
I don't know enough
Yeah.
about. It's kind of, you know, all this stuff is kind of gambling. It's gambling, but if you buy what's called buy the market, if you buy what the average is, if you buy a fund that buys all the top stocks, you will always win. Now, you may lose you might lose next year, you might lose for the next 3 years, but the stock market always goes up.
Right.
It always increases. It may go down, it always increases. Tesla is an interesting stock. It was up to almost $400 a share. And that's after it has split many times. And now it's down to about $120 a share.
Oh, shoot.
So you might want to take some of your money and buy a share of Tesla. So we'll talk about that also.
Cool.
Because that's still gambling, but Tesla's a good company. You know what I feel about that. So any questions on anything? And again, you guys want help setting up an account?
I'm
happy
sure
to
I'll
help
have
you
some
guys.
questions
I mean,
eventually.
yeah, I would love that. That'd be awesome.
It's just great to have it, just make it a habit. Make it a habit. So that's my gift this year. And I didn't want to do little things. This is important. This is your future.
Cool.
And I recorded this. Hopefully it came out because I want you to look at this in 10 years and look at this in 20 years and look at this in 30 years when I'm dead and say, Dad,
Dad, there's a clip.
we're living in this nice house now because
And
my
30
poor
years
dead
when
dad.
we're rich.
Exactly. So but once you get into this habit of saving and putting money aside, it helps you in so many other parts of your life. So work on this, and then down the road again, your goal is a house.
Thanks.
Your goal is to own a house.
And
But right now, let's work on this. What's that?
Investments.
Investments. Yeah.
Thank you, Dad.
All right.
There's a
Merry
clip. There's a
Christmas.
clip on here. We need to post on TikTok.
And there's some stuff there from Nana and some for Kinsey and Stephen from me.
Aww.
Want to grab